John D. Rockefeller was America's first billionaire. In fact, he was very savvy on using financial structures and financial products to solidify his wealth and build generational wealth. So in this video, I'm going to unpack the Rockefeller Method, and I'm going to give you the South African blueprint of what you can do to secure your generational wealth using the Rockefeller Method. Hi, my name is Yolanda. I'm a wealth advisor, and it is my goal on this platform to give you easy, actionable tips, content, and strategies that you can use to manage money well, to live abundantly, and build generational wealth. I'm the founder of Financially Fabulous Females, a financial education platform where I teach you about South African concepts that you can execute in your everyday life in trying to build wealth and generational wealth in South Africa. I am also the director of Solomon Wealth Management. We are a wealth management firm based in Durban, and we help South Africans all around the world, including South Africa, manage their money well by using strategies, not just financial products, in the wealth building journey. If you want to chat with me one-on-one, click the link down below. And if you want to implement the strategy for you and your family, I'd love to chat to you one-on-one. So let's unpack the Rockefeller Method. John D. Rockefeller made a ton of money in the oil industry. He was in oil refining with Standard Oil during the mid to late 1800s. So this was the time of the Industrial Revolution. America was being industrialized and he was refining oil. He managed to really drop the price of oil, basically had a monopoly in the industry. Okay, he had amassed a huge portion. By the time he died, he had about $1.5 billion to his name. That's equivalent to about $3.5 billion today. Okay, massive amount of money. During his lifetime, he donated over $530 million to charity. Okay, I know there's always a dark cloud over families like the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers, but there's things that we can learn from them, irrespective of how you feel. John D. Rockefeller, when he passed away, he left his wealth to his son, Rockefeller Jr. And Rockefeller Jr., he obviously inherited large sums of money, but I think he was the main driving force in putting these structures in place that allows almost the sixth generation Rockefeller today to eat from the same pot that the original John D. Rockefeller had set up. So it does go to show the money moves that you make today, your children, grandchildren, and even 4 or 5 generations down the line will be eating from. So if there's nothing to eat, a lot of it has to do with the actions that you take in your lifetime. So what Rockefeller Jr. did, he set up this concept of the family bank, driven by the family office. So the family bank is the funding structure. I know you think it's pretty easy. They have like $1.5 billion to do it. But how are they eating $1.5 billion today? There's a lot of savviness that went into it. Families like the Vanderbilts, very similar setup to the Rockefellers during the same time. In 2-3 generations, their wealth was gone. And why their wealth was gone is they failed to do what Rockefeller Jr. did, was keep their money together. So Rockefeller Jr. used a series of trust and financial products to set up the family bank that financed people's education, that financed their philanthropic activities, that financed businesses. Okay, and he used trust to do that, and he used life insurance to do it. And I'm going to show you how that works today. One of the biggest drivers of the Rockefeller Method is the family office. The family office is a group of expert individuals in their very respective industries. People like attorneys, tax attorneys, estate planning attorneys, financial advisors, investment advisors, insurance people, because insurance people were the biggest funders of the whole Rockefeller Method to keep this money cycling generation after generation. So how can you use this in your day-to-day wealth planning? Have people on your team. I know it can be expensive, but when it comes to really critical things like estate planning, it's worth paying a lawyer to go and get advice. Struggling with taxes, it's worth paying a tax advisor to go and get advice. And if you don't like the numbers, let them do it for you. And if you have no idea about the financial products that you can use to bolster your wealth in the country, speak to a financial advisor. All right? It's not hard to do. It's just a matter of sitting down, writing your plan together. You don't have to know everything. You just need to know who to talk to. The Rockefellers were very good at showing us how to pass on generational wealth and to have that wealth circulating generation after generation. But what we don't see, the tangibles that we don't see, is something called human life value assets. Those are things like your drive, your ambition, your compassion, your education. You can't put monetary value to those kind of things. And in essence, it's the human life value asset that drive your wealth building journey. And I know in South Africa, we have the big income gap that's always being talked about. Politicians milk that as much as they can. And politicians' solutions to the wealth income gap in South Africa is jobs and redistribution and centralized control of everything from education to healthcare. And the whole shift is happening now. But there's no focus on the human life value assets, the strong family structure, your drive, your ambition. What are you chasing money for? I mean, we live in such a materialistic way in South Africa. Your first salary, you're buying a car instead of investing. So the human life value assets are the biggest drivers of it. There are real people out there with really good human life value assets that have the right idea about money, about wanting to build wealth so they can spend time with their family, so they can give back to their communities, so they're not a slave to the system. So I urge you, re-look at why you're trying to build wealth. Is it for material things, or is it to really enjoy life, the experiences that life has to give you? So the Rockefellers, they created this family bank, right? And they used life insurance to fund the family bank. I mean, they had a crap load of money from the original Rockefeller, right? But that money was used for business, for properties, for education. And sometimes it worked out, sometimes it didn't. But the bank had to be funded. And life insurance was the tool that Rockefeller Jr. used to set up this process that basically has perpetual wealth. So the Rockefeller Method has perpetual wealth and preserving wealth rather than just handing over large chunks of money to individuals that might not have the skill or the experience or the even drive to know what to do with that money. And if they did it that way, where large chunks of money were just handed out, each generation would have to start again, start from zero, go to university, get an education, get a job, then buy property, then invest. But each generation builds upon the other with the Rockefellers. One of the greatest things that they've done was keep wealth centralized by using the trust structure. With the average family, a lot of the wealth is held in life insurance. Okay, not bad. I mean, one layer of financial services products there. But what happens after that? You're spending on fancy cars. But the Rockefellers kept the money together. The life insurance went back into the family bank that funded people's education, business, and charity events. All right, so let's try and recap what he did, right? So this was John D. Rockefeller, right? He had the Standard Oil Company that was so huge that eventually Congress broke it up into ExxonMobil, Chevron, and things like that. He left about 1.5 billion US dollars. Okay, my 5 looks like an S, right? $1.5 billion to his son, Rockefeller Jr. Rockefeller Jr., he set up a whole bunch of trusts for each of his kids. And all of these funds were moved into the trusts. So the trust is not just about ruling from the grave. Rather, it's about giving successive generations parameters in which they can use the wealth to enjoy life, to build a life for themselves and their children, but also to give back and fund the future generations. How can you use the system to set up the family bank? I'm not going to give you how to fund the family bank. All right, that is financial advice, and you're going to have to book an appointment one-on-one on how you can fund it. If you're a client already, let's chat. You have my WhatsApp details, share on WhatsApp or book an appointment, and we can look at funding structures. All right, but once it's set up and you have money in there, this is how you need to do things. In South Africa, you have a trust deed, which your attorney would need to set up. It would then go to court and get all validated in the various legal processes in South Africa. What you can have is the trustees that be very trusted people that will sit and guide the trust in how the wealth should be managed. Those trustees should represent your values, either part of the family or not. It's totally up to you, but they need to represent your values. They got to understand exactly what you want, how you see your wealth going, what do you want for your family, and to make decisions according to your value system. So while you're alive, you can set up a trust for your descendants, where all your assets can be held in trust, whether it's upon your death or you transfer it while you're alive. Very technical, expensive process. So here you're going to need the guidance of an attorney, possibly a tax person as well, to help you explain how to transfer assets into a trust while you're alive. Okay, if you want those assets passed upon your death, obviously an attorney will have to get involved at that point. But there's some nice financial services products available that will allow you to do that in the most tax-efficient method. Yes, essentially this trust is now your family bank that's going to fund you. So if your child or grandchild, great-grandchild needs to go to university and wants to study, that parent should not be saving. That parent should not be going to the bank to get a study loan or NSFAS or whatever the case is. He needs to make a case to the family trust. So the child ready to go to university, 2, 3, however many generations along the line, now he needs to write a proposal. I want to study medicine. This is why I want to study medicine. These are my shortlisted schools. This is where I have been accepted. This is my plan. This is where I'm going to stay. This is my tuition fee. I need a dormitory. I need flight fees, all of these fees covered. But this is my plan after I graduate. I'm going to work here for a while to get experience. Then I want to set up a clinic over here because these are the people that need it the most. Essentially, he's writing a business plan for his life on why he wants to study and why he wants the family bank to fund him. And essentially, the trustees need to make a decision, right? We've got this application. This is the plan. What do we say? Are we going to fund this? Are we going to fund it partially? Is this kid just messing around with us? Is he going to waste our money? What is he going to do? Essentially, there's a board of people, like a company. How you have a board that's taking strategic decisions for a company. The trustees will sit and evaluate this application. And this application can be for anything, not just education. For business, a charity that you want to set up, some kind of literacy program, whatever the case is, you got to follow the formal business structures to prove exactly what you're trying to do, why you need the funding, and obviously how the funding is granted. You need a set of rules that the trustees would have to develop to make this workable. So if they're going to put interest on it, let them put interest on it. But essentially what the Rockefellers did is they used cash value life insurance. When the Rockefellers, the next generation, were being born, life insurance was taken on that child. Now, you can't do this in South Africa. There has to be insurable interest, and there's no insurable interest in terms of minors in the country. So you got to wait till that child turns 18, or once they start accessing those funds for education, for business, now life insurance can kick in. But essentially, cash value life insurance in America was where you take whole of life permanent insurance over a certain period, or after a certain period, you can access the insured value of that life insurance. Okay, great product to have. We used to have it back in the day. We don't have it right now. But how can you make this work in a South African context? With the Rockefellers, they took the cash value life insurance, they took out a huge chunk of the money, and they used that money, right? In South Africa, you got to wait to turn 18, then take life insurance where the trust is the beneficiary. So you can see how it can get tricky here if your life value assets are not aligned in terms of your family. You all have different values. Some of you are communists, some of you are socialists, some of you are capitalists, some of you are just happy to collect, and some of you are ready to grind. All right, there's the base here of those life value assets: your drive, your ambition, your education, and how much you want to give back. So if everybody's on the same playing field, then you can Ubuntu stuff. When they're not, it's a little bit tough. And that is why the trust, the deed document, is so important. So if somebody's going to take something out of that trust for whatever reasons, can't be to buy a car or something silly, right? It's going to be to progress yourself and to set up the next generation as well. So essentially, once money is accessed from the family bank, life insurance is taken where the trust is the beneficiary. Okay, so if something happens, whether that child's plan is fulfilled and he lives his long, full life, opening up a clinic and setting up his charities and other businesses, whatever the case is, there's life insurance that goes back into the trust to cover exactly what he took, and even more, essentially having more to fund the next generation. And to make this all work, is you gotta have to be, whoever's starting it up, it needs to be really savvy, has to really have a good plan together, understand money management, budgeting, the value of whole of life insurance, and how you can use it to leverage your wealth building. I mean, life insurance is one of the lowest hanging fruit in wealth building, because you're paying a couple of $100. As you age, obviously it will increase, but your insured amount will also increase. And obviously, it depends on your risk. Now, if you want to know more about South African life insurance, check the playlist. I'll link the playlist down below where you can understand more about South African life insurance. But it's the lowest form. It's the cheapest. If you save 1,000 Rand a month, you die in year 5, what is your family going to get? 90,000 Rands if you're lucky. Whereas if you start paying your couple of 500-600 Rand a month life insurance, if you die in year 5, there's millions going into the family. And essentially, whoever inherits that needs to start the family bank, or you can even put it in your will, this concept of the family bank. So as the kids were born, they each had insurance taken out on them. And obviously, it was cash value insurance in the US, because you can take out a lot of the insured value, which we don't have here. But how you want to set it up in South Africa is once somebody accesses the bank for education, for business, whatever the case is, then the insurance kicks in. Now there's insurable interest. So the request is made from the bank for the funding. The bank will then fund the individual, and life insurance is taken. Okay, I know it seems pretty simple. Why hasn't us regular folks been thought of this sooner? But as this is just a bird's eye view exactly of how it goes. But know that in each step here, there's hundreds and hundreds of processes and structures that you need to put in place to make it work. Okay, it's going to cost you some money as well. Setting up of the trust, maintenance of the trust, the tax people. You got to understand the taxes in South Africa about the trust. It's not as easy as it is in the United States, as complicated as things are in the United States. It's not as easy here because a lot of the tax shields are slowly being stripped away by government. That in a nutshell is the Rockefeller Method. But how can we do it in the South African perspective, right? This is South Africa. So this is you. You're looking happy now because I gave you some really great wealth building strategy, right? So you are on this wealth building journey, all right? Whether you want to build wealth for yourself, and obviously this is not the method for you, but if you're somebody who's looking for generational wealth, then this is what you're doing. You have your job. Maybe you have a side hustle. Maybe you start investing. Maybe you have some property. I don't know. Life, still early days, right? Eventually, either in your lifetime or when you pass away, you set up the trust. The trust now becomes your family bank. This can happen in your lifetime or when you pass. So your assets would flow into the trust. If you already have a trust and looking for ways for funding, you can book an appointment or speak to your financial advisor. How you can fund the trust today, or not today, maybe in a shorter time period. Maybe you have a couple of babies, right? You have some children, all right, they want to study, they borrow from here. Then the trust would then take out insurance, life insurance on them. So while they're busy building their empire, getting their education, building their business, doing their charity work, something happens to them, the funds go back to the trust to fund the other kids who will obviously then have their own kids. And they're all doing the same method of the family bank, right? The bank is doing what? It's funding education. It is funding business. It's doing charity. And who's running the trust? You've got your family office, your tax people, your legal people. And legal is wide, from estate planning to tax. In some cases, you can have the attorneys that work with marital regimes and things like that. I don't know how the legal field works. Maybe if you're a lawyer, let us know in the comments how that would work. You'd have your financial advisor. Why you would want a financial advisor is because, one, we can think of strategies like this for you. And two, to access financial products. Good quality, the right type of product for your needs. In South Africa, there's hundreds of products aimed at different demographic groups, socioeconomic groups. So you got to realize, in South Africa, is that income disparity. So when something comes out, ask yourself, who is this product for? Is it for me in the middle class? Is it for me as a blue-collar worker? Who is it for? All right? An advisor would help you to do that, and obviously the right kind of advisor. Yeah, so that's basically it. That's your team that you would need to give you guidance on this. Maybe you'd want some family in there, or very close family, a friend as well, and that's your group of trustees. Eventually, these people will die, right? And your children, which you transferred your human life value assets, your ambition, your drive, your financial literacy, they take this place here. They will find new people to replace these people. So obviously, whoever it is you choose, you would want a company and not an individual because of succession. And the companies will naturally elect somebody to replace you with those services. But ideally, whoever the next generation is will fill the role of trustees, and their life value assets, carrying your values and your drive, your ambition and your literacy, would then drive this bank together with advice from your advisors. You would then teach your children your life value assets, the drive, the ambition, the spirituality, what you want to accomplish, the legacy your family wants to leave in your city, in your community, in this country, on the planet. Okay, and that's basically how it is. And eventually, when you are no longer here, your children will have children. And your children will then pass on their life value assets. And basically, that's how it is. When you pass away, you fund the bank. When your children pass away, they fund the bank. And that's basically it. All right, that's the South African blueprint of the Rockefeller Method. What you need to know is you need a good tax person to advise you on transferring all these assets that you've accumulated or will accumulate into the trust, whether you're going to decide whether to do it now upon your passing. Okay, you're going to have your legal person set up your trusts, give you guidance, what should be in the trust, what shouldn't be in the trust. When you buy a new asset, you're going to talk to those people and say, okay, I'm buying this new house now. It's for my family. Where should I put in the trust? This is going to be our family home for generations. There's a big plot of land. I want my son's house here, my daughter's house here. Okay, they will give you advice. And what's nice about this, a lot of this is interlinked between those three professions. And they're going to work together with your team to drive your family bank. This is the family office that runs the family bank. Okay, a lot of stuff happened there. I hope it makes sense. All right, maybe I'll come up with a cleaner version with a lot neater handwriting. So this is it. It's the South African blueprint of the Rockefeller Method. Hundreds of processes and structures in between. This is just a bird's eye view. If you want this for your family and your future generations, I'd love to help you set it up. Click the link where you're watching this video and we can chat one-on-one. Be sure to check out this video here. It's going to give you more insight into South African financial services.